The Hornets lose another NBA Cup game to the Miami Heat. LaMelo Ball still on the injury list, and now he's showing up on all kinds of trade rumor list. We'll get into all that plus a recap of that loss to Miami today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
Welcome in. This is Locked On Hornets, your daily podcast on the Charlotte Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which now is the #1 sports podcast network. Congratulations. Locked On. Let's do it. I'm Doug Branson. You can find my work on everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm also an associate producer of Yahoo Sports Daily on every day. Check it out on the Yahoo site or on YouTube. I'm typically joined by my co-host, Walker Mail of WFNZ, Wesson Walker, 12 to 3. He's off today, so I will be digging into this latest NBA Cup loss to the Miami Heat. I want to go inside that loss for sure. I want to dig into the details. That's what we do on a daily Hornets podcast. Plenty of time for that. But also what we do on this podcast is occasionally try to zoom out and talk about the major storylines that are happening with this team, not just game to game, but over the course of multiple games. And I think the two biggest storylines with the Charlotte Hornets right now are, number one, injuries once again for what feels like the 10th or 15th or 20th straight season is a major storyline, and why the Hornets are losing basketball games, particularly injuries to your best players in LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, and into critical role player pieces like Grant Williams, who is still on the mend from a major knee surgery, Josh Green from a shoulder surgery. These were starter-level players last season that are absent for the Charlotte Hornets. And then in this game against Miami, you also had Collin Sexton, who has been one of the brighter spots and additions for the Charlotte Hornets this season, on the bench as well with a neck strain that does not appear to be too serious. So that's one storyline. But the other storyline has been developing as a result of those injuries, and that is that the 4 Charlotte Hornets rookies this season have all gotten more play time and more responsibilities. And so then the obvious question to that is, what are they doing with that opportunity? Because as a rookie, I mean, Kon Knueppel was a 4th overall pick, so you assumed that he was going to have a major role this season on a team that won 19 games last season. It would have been ridiculous had he not. But for the other 3 guys, Tidjane James, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and Liam McNeely, sometimes you get opportunities early in your career, in your rookie season, because of injuries, because of different things, and sometimes you don't. But all 4 of these guys have, and for the most part, I would say outside of maybe Liam McNeely, who's, I think, done some other good things outside of his offense, but his offense, he's been a little tentative there. But all the other 3 rookies have been outstanding. And Kon Knueppel, really the major storyline from the Miami loss, because he gets his first 30-point game, 30 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 straight games scoring 20 or more points. His responsibilities have skyrocketed as a result of both LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller being on the mend. And then Collin Sexton sits, and so, you were really looking for Kon to do some special things, and he did them against Miami. The rookies have played awesome. Unfortunately for the Charlotte Hornets, the veterans on this team are either failing in their responsibilities, particularly in the second half of that game against Miami. You had Trey Mann and Miles Bridges shoot 1 of 17 in the second half. The rookies holding up their end of the bargain. Kon Knueppel, I mentioned, 30 points. Ryan Kalkbrenner, 10 points, 5 rebounds on 5 of 7 shooting. Tidjane James, only 10 points, but 4 of 8 from the field. Strong takes, good defense. Ryan Kalkbrenner, how many blocks did he have in this game? I mean, he has been, good for almost 4 blocks. Yeah, 4 blocks. There you go. I mean, it's 4 block Brenner is really what we should start calling him, because Ryan has been devastating underneath the basket. No steals in this one, but he had a 4-4 game the other night. So, active with his hands, an impact player on the defensive end of the floor. But your veterans are failing in their responsibilities, or they're entirely absent from the team. Brandon Miller, shoulder subluxation. He's being reevaluated. We'll learn more about him in 2 weeks. No timelines for Josh Green. They could use his wing defense, especially in a game like this where you were looking to set a tone, and instead, Miami sets the tone by scoring 53 points in the first quarter. Charlotte scored 33. That would have been good enough. You probably, if you scored 33 and play any defense, you probably go in at least with maybe just a couple of point deficit, relative to the defense that they've been able to play normally this season, which is not a lot, but it's some. You go in, 35-33. Instead, they go down 53-33, 20-point first half. Could have used some of Josh Green's wing defense. Grant Williams, knee surgery, absent. And then you have LaMelo Ball. More ankle procedures, comes into this season. And I think the team was confident that he would be available to play. I think fans were confident that he would be available to play. And that this was going to be a relaunch season for LaMelo Ball to, prove that he could stay on the floor, that he could impact winning in a special way, and get back into his all-star groove. Instead, he's been on the bench with ankle impingement. Now I look at this situation and I think, what are the incentives involved for everyone? And I look at the Charlotte Hornets and I think every incentive that they have right now is to get these guys back out onto the floor as quickly as possible to win games, particularly in the early part of this season where the schedule has been a little bit soft and should continue to be. I mean, they've got the Lakers on Monday. That's going to be a tough game. They've had some opportunities to win some games. And to not have LaMelo Ball out there, it doesn't make any sense. Like, this was supposed to be a season where the Charlotte Hornets, and they were voicing this a little bit, that they were supposed to be taking this season more seriously. Maybe it wasn't going to result in an immediate playoff berth, but they were taking it more seriously and needed to see what Kon Knueppel looks like with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. I'm going to get these numbers slightly wrong. Ben UHCCC on Twitter had this. I'm going to get these numbers slightly wrong. I'll try to look it up in the break. But I believe that Ben looked this up, and that LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller have been together as teammates on the Charlotte Hornets for 173 games and have played together somewhere in the neighborhood of 42, 44 games. Truly disgusting stuff. Like, we're all sickos, but that is those are truly disgusting numbers when you're talking about a player in LaMelo Ball who is, making somewhere in the neighborhood of $37 million, going up to $46 million in the final year of a 5-year max contract. And then Brandon Miller, somebody that you drafted second overall and had big hopes for and missed a majority of last season with the wrist injury and now this shoulder issue. Like, how do you plan to be good as a team when you can't have your two best players on the floor? And then on the LaMelo side of this, that ankle impingement, we haven't gotten any information from the team in terms of what's causing that, a timeline for return. And it does make you wonder, what's the driving force in not having LaMelo Ball out there? These game time decisions. Saw him, I believe both he and Collin Sexton were out warming up. So these are decisions that are not happening I don't think are happening, significantly before the game, or mapping out, hey, you're going to miss 3 or 4 games. I think this is a day-to-day situation. So who's holding who out? Meanwhile, this is all happening around the same time that LaMelo Ball trade rumors are heating up. A lot of guard rumors. I mean, you've got Ja Morant rumors, you've got Trae Young rumors, you've got what's Darius Garland's situation in Cleveland. It just seems like the market is ripe right now for guard swaps, messes for messes kinds of trades. And then you have people telling ESPN, I'm reading the NBC Sports Report on this, but this was from ESPN. The situation in Charlotte with LaMelo Ball also echoes what's happening in Memphis in one key way with Ja Morant. The star player is very popular in the market and helps sell tickets, while his trade value around the league is not high enough to have the Hornets considering a deal. Here's what one scout told ESPN, quote, "Would someone take a flyer on him? For sure, but Charlotte isn't taking a flyer price for him." And they go on to write, again, a Ball trade is more likely next offseason than at the deadline. The Hornets will be patient. They want to see what this core, they want to see what this core can do together when healthy, which could boost Ball's trade value. Okay, fine. But what happens if you're the Charlotte Hornets and you cannot see what this core can do together? What if the in question is more worried about his maybe more conservative about playing for his long-term sake than is concerned about getting out on the floor and helping his teammates? What if that's the case? What if that frustration builds within the franchise and they can't get a good read on what LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Kon Knueppel? What if you strike gold on at least 3 out of your 4 rookies? What if that starts to make you question as an organization, hey, what if winning sells tickets and you can't win without LaMelo Ball and he's not playing? I saw a commercial during that Miami game trying to sell tickets for a Saturday night contest against the Oklahoma City Thunder, the world champions. Now, I know OKC doesn't sell like LA, it doesn't sell like New York. I get it. But it's a Saturday night game. There's still tickets available against the world champions. Why? Why are there tickets available? Because nobody knows if LaMelo Ball is going to play or not. It doesn't matter if you have LaMelo Ball to sell tickets on if nobody truly buys that he's going to play or not. That has to change the calculus if you're an organization. All right, Walker and I are going to talk much more about the LaMelo trade rumors, I'm sure, as this week goes on, because particularly with the Moran situation looking like it's got to come to a head at some point, I just don't see these rumors cooling down. And the thing is, like, if you're Giannis or you're a certain level of player, particularly if you're that level of player in a smaller market where you are playing a lot, I think certain rumors are always going to exist. But I think with LaMelo Ball, I don't see him in a category of players where it's like those rumors are always going to be there because he hasn't played, because he hasn't been a storyline in the NBA, because he hasn't played. So I think when I see rumors come up about LaMelo Ball, I actually take them more seriously than some other rumors about particular players. And so I don't really like say, well, that's just, people are going to rumor about LaMelo Ball. Now, I don't think that's the case. I think they come from a serious place. Okay, coming up on Locked On Hornets. I do want to dig deeper into this loss against the Miami Heat. The Hornets falling to 1-8 now in NBA Cup action. And in that first quarter, like, what in the bleep went wrong for Miami to score 53 points? Was it just hot shooting? Was there something underneath that terrible defensive performance? I want to dig into that. Plus, Kon Knueppel. Just got to talk about all of the incredible things that he did in this game. That's all ahead on Locked On Hornets. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets is brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. They've been helping the show out for a while. Help them out as well. The NBA season is heating up. DoorDash, they found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for the highlights, maybe you're watching for your fantasy team, or just your favorite player. How about your favorite team? Maybe you're just watching the Charlotte Hornets. DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the Bag Drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and the stuff that you'll actually want. DoorDash has you covered for all of the late-night highlights, the last-minute watch parties, and those double OT fuel ups. So next time someone goes off for 50 points, maybe it's Kon Knueppel, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass, plus your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only, 50% off up to $10 the next day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Back here on Locked On Hornets. All right, I feel like that first segment, I had to get some stuff off my chest. It was a little sick. It was a little bit on the negative side. There were some positive things to take away from this game. I did mention Kon Knueppel's big night, 30 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. Let's sit on that for a minute, because we cannot take for granted that Kon Knueppel was able to assemble 30 points against a Miami defense that did not have Bam Adebayo, but also they were able to throttle the Charlotte Hornets in their previous matchup. And if I'm not mistaken, Kon Knueppel was not able to do the things that he was able to do in this game. And so you're seeing quick learning from the rookie. You're seeing adjustments, but more importantly, you're seeing a rookie that recognizes the moment and was told, I'm sure, hey, didn't need to be told, I don't think, but was probably told, hey, kid, green light, right? I mean, no LaMelo Ball, no Brandon Miller, no Collin Sexton. Collin Sexton was driving a lot of the offense along with Tre Mann in that game against the New Orleans Pelicans, although, final shot of the game did go to Kon Knueppel off the brush screen from Collin Sexton. But you could still see there was a little bit of deferral from Kon Knueppel. Not in this game. 23 shot attempts in this one, 39% from the field, but got to the free throw line. That's the cool thing that we've seen from Kon Knueppel overall, I think, is that he counters his weaknesses with strengths. Weaknesses being the initial burst, not the speediest. The athleticism, by his own admission, not the highest. You've got to be athletic to be in the NBA. He is athletic, but it's all relative. Everybody in the NBA is athletic, but there are super athletes, there are mid athletes, there are below average athletes. By his own admission, Kon Knueppel is probably in that average to below average category in athleticism. You've got to be able to counter that. How do you do that? You counter it with basketball IQ. You counter it with ball protection. I mean, how many turnovers did he have in this game? He did have 2 turnovers, but Miles Bridges had 4. Ryan Kalkbrenner had 3. Tre Mann had 4. And again, 23 shot attempts. I don't know what his usage rate. I don't have it here. I don't have the usage rate, but it's got to be a lot. You score 30 points, you take 23 shots, and you have 3 assists, 8 rebounds. So you're probably taking some of those defensive rebounds and initiating the offense, right? I'm sure the usage rate was pretty high in this one. So turnover to usage rate, I would say probably pretty good for him actually on the 2 turnovers. Ball protection, particularly when he's driving. Like I saw him drive multiple times in that game against Miami and not cough it up. Can't say the same thing for Miles Bridges. Can't say the same thing on some of the pass decisions for Tre Mann. If you look at Kon Knueppel overall, the turnover percentage is not great. I think most of those have been on bad pass decisions. We've seen him sometimes just get a little too quick, whether he's in the middle of the floor or coming off or driving off the corner. We've seen him be a little bit too quick with the kick out and it's a little bit too telegraphed and, somebody picks up on it and jumps the passing lane. We've seen that. To me, that's fixable. But if you don't have good ball security on your drives, I think that's a little bit tougher to overcome. But he has that. He knows how to protect the basketball and then still, get the ball up through contact, finger roll, off glass, high off glass. One of those shots that he hit was a moonball shot off the high backboard. He has an ability, and so does Tidjane James, of just like finding ways to get the ball in the cup where you're like, man, I just didn't know how he was going to do that. The help was there, didn't blow by the defender. The defender's kind of on his hip a little bit, running pace for pace with him, and still finds a way to get the ball in. That's where you go, okay, you're looking at check boxes to figure out, hey, is he going to be a high-level role player? That's kind of the floor, If you're drafting top 5, you want a star. But if you get a high-level role player a number 3 that you can pair along 2 other special players, you can win championships with those kind of picks in the top 4. But he's flashing some stuff where you go, whew, there's something a little special here. There's something a little different. He's seeing things. Things are slowing down quicker for him. And being able to absorb the contact and being able to get to the free throw line and knock down the free throw shots. The being unafraid. The saying, I'm going to take 23 shots in this game and I'm going to go up against this Miami defense and learn from what happened last time. His ability to make three-point shots, has been revolutionary for the offense. Just having a guy that can catch and shoot the way he can. And I think his ability to hit those threes off the dribble and off the quick handoff, I think that's only going to improve for him. So yeah, I'm super impressed with Kon Knueppel. That's not a big take, that's not a hot take. I think a lot of people are looking at this and having the same opinion, and I'm ready to believe that Kon can be more than a high-level role player. I'm ready to believe that. I got to see a lot more. We got to see how this season turns out. We got to see if he can stay healthy. Or you just be healthy. Like that's, that would go so far in determining that. I don't think he possesses he obviously doesn't possess some of the special physical tools that, a 6'7" point guard like LaMelo Ball does, or the length that Brandon Miller provides you on the wing. But he has a lot of special skills and a lot of special IQ. And I think we started to see against Miami, and we saw this in Summer League too. He wants it. There's never going to be a question about Kon Knueppel wanting it. He wanted the ball in that final moment against New Orleans. Didn't hit the shot, but he wants it in that moment. And you cannot take any of that for granted because of what we've seen historically with the Charlotte Hornets and their rookie selections. You cannot take that for granted. And then defensively, I was texting someone before the game and I said, well, with Bam Adebayo out, the way they shifted the starting lineup for the Miami Heat, I said, well, at least, he won't have to chase around Andrew Wiggins because Wiggins slides to the 4. I figured they would put Miles Bridges on Wiggins and then they would put Kon Knueppel onto Pelle Larsson. Because I figured hey, they're gonna let Kon Knueppel try to cook in this game, and I figured they would let him take over 20 shots. So they wouldn't get, maybe you put him on Pelle Larsson. No. He had to guard Norm Powell, who didn't play in the last game. So, he didn't even have any experience guarding him previously. So now he's going to have to just go based on the scouting report. And, Norm in this game, and it wasn't all, had 25 points. He was good in this game. But there were some moments where, Kon was able to stay in front, some moments where he could be an impact defender. And it's just encouraging that Charles Lee views him in that way. Views him as somebody I'm going to put you on Norm Powell. I'm going to challenge you in this way. I'm not going to hide you. That's what they do with LaMelo Ball. They try to hide, and that's reflective of how special he is of an offensive player. Kon's not at that level yet of so special an offensive player that I'm going to afford to hide you, but also I don't think they're going to have to hide Kon in that same way because he is an effort defender. And this team features a lot of effort defenders, and yet they could not defend the Miami Heat in the first quarter. Coming up on Locked On Hornets, I dig a little bit deeper into this Miami loss, 126-108, particularly that first quarter and the disaster of offense from the veterans in the second half. We'll talk about it all coming up. Locked On Hornets. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day. But on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineups, and you can play anywhere. Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I love so many of the features on Prize Picks, including picking my favorite players. I can, on the NFL side, I can go for some Tet over with the Carolina Panthers. Rico revolutionizing a lot of people's prize picks, I'm sure. I'm picking the Reek Freak for a couple of tutties and maybe 3 pumps this time. Maybe he says, you know what, you want to find me for 2 pumps? I'm going 3, baby. Rico, I can pick Rico the Freako on prize picks and see how those predictions play out. They've got a new stacks feature that's a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph Curry's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup and stack it up. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game, it's okay. Maybe you want to ride the hot hand. FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine those live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. It wasn't exactly a late push from the Charlotte Hornets, but you might have gotten in on that second quarter and rode the hot hand that was the Charlotte Hornets. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Back here on Locked On Hornets, a couple of things to clean up. Kon Knueppel actually did have a good game against Miami in that 144-117 loss back before Halloween. 19 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists on 7 of 15 shooting, a 126.7 points per shot attempt, which is actually higher than his points per shot attempt. That's an efficiency measure. Higher, even though the points were lower, higher efficiency against Miami. I was thinking of the follow-up game against Orlando, same team or same state, different team. In that one, 83.3 points per shot attempt, only 5 points. And then Minnesota bottled them up as well, 5 points. So something about Miami, he likes the matchups there and is able to perform well. So that's great. I mean, like anytime a Charlotte Hornets player can play well against Miami, that's going to be welcome to the sickos out there who desperately want to see the Charlotte Hornets show Miami something for once, as opposed to the other way around. And Kon Knueppel also represents one of only 2 players on this team right now that has an above average usage percentage and an above average efficiency. So they get the ball a lot and they do good things with the ball more often than they do bad things with the ball. Kon Knueppel sitting in the 60th percentile among wings in usage and the 58th percentile, so above average, points per shot attempt according to Cleaning the Glass. He's joined by Collin Sexton. Kon and Collin even higher, 75 percentile usage, way above average, almost in the first quartile there in usage among combo guards. And 81st percentile, 128.9 points per shot attempt. Kon Knueppel, 123. Okay? Keep those numbers in mind. 128, 123. You contrast that with LaMelo Ball, 91st percentile in usage, one of the highest usage players, will always be that as long as he's starting. And points per shot attempt average at 111.1. Miles Bridges, 109.4. That's 25th percentile in the bottom quartile. And then Trey Mann at 90.9 in the 8th percentile. That's, I mean, you're near the bottom in points per shot attempt if you're Trey Mann. And in this game, that pretty much reflects what happened in this game, particularly in the second half, where I mentioned 1 of 17 between Miles Bridges and Trey Mann and prevented what was a valiant comeback, prevented them from really taking control of the game in those moments where they had the opportunity. They were able to make Miami question themselves, but were not able to strike at the heart of their confidence, which is what you've got to be able to get a lead, 5-point lead, hold on to it for a few minutes, make that one more run in order to finish off those incredible comebacks. And the Charlotte Hornets were able to sort of get the snowball rolling a little bit, but it stopped midway down the mountain. And that's kind of normal when you go down 20 points in the first quarter. Steve Clifford would say it all the time. Former coach of the Charlotte Hornets would say it. You cannot win games in the first quarter, but you can lose them. And that was, I mean, you could lose them in terms of you can go down 20 and stay down 20, but more often than not, because of the way this league works, and particularly because more teams are taking 3-point shots than ever before, that allows teams to get back into games. But the energy that it takes to get back into the game prevents you from actually winning the game. And I think you could see some of that in Miles Bridges and Tre Mann towards the end of this game. Why did they get down 20 points in the first quarter? It's very easy to say, hey, man, Miami, tip your cap season for Miami in that first quarter. I'll just run it down in terms of the 3 points. Davion Mitchell, 1 of 2. Norman Powell, 2 of 4. Andrew Wiggins, 2 of 2. Pelle Larsson hit 1. Jaime Jaquez hit 1. Simone Fontecchio hit 1. Khalil Ware hit 1 of 2. Drew Smith got in on the action. The only one that didn't hit a 3. The only player was Nikola Jovic. So that's 9 rotation players in the first quarter. 8 of them hit 3-point shots. Incredible. 10 of 15 overall for the Miami Heat. It's easy to be like, good job, well done. But you look a little bit deeper and you go, how many of those were created on the number of turnovers that the Charlotte Hornets had in that first quarter? As a team in the first quarter, 12 points off of turnovers for Miami of the 53. And I think what the turnovers do is they create opportunities for teams to get out into transition. And Charles Lee pointed that out after the game, like the transition defense in the first half wasn't good, but that wasn't because they weren't getting back. That was because they were coughing up the basketball and giving teams and giving the Miami Heat an advantage where they didn't need one. Because, I mean, this team has had difficulties this season so far stopping Miami in the half court. So you don't want to give them opportunities in transition. So 7 turnovers of the 18. 18, too big of a number. Now, I would look at it and say, you're playing 4 rookies significant minutes. You're going to have turnover issues of some kind, and it's degree. And it should, to me, I think you look at the veterans and say, hey, veterans, you know that you're going to have some turnover issues with the rookies, seeing a lot of these defenses for the first time, seeing a lot of these players for the first time, adjusting to the speed and the complexity of NBA defense, which is the toughest thing for rookies to adjust to as they come into the league. Second, well, maybe the toughest thing is them actually knowing where to be on defense. But it's a pretty close second of like knowing the tendencies of opposing defenses and how quick they are to jump these passing lanes and how effective they are at taking your cookies when you're driving. And that was one of the most frustrating things I think about Miles Bridges' game in this one, because I thought there were sections of the game where he was doing a lot of things, a lot of good things, 7 assists. I thought there was a lot of hustle for him on loose balls. He got a few of his baskets on offensive rebounds. There was some good things that he was doing in this game. But one of the bad things he was doing is, and we've seen this so much from him when LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller aren't playing, getting into these ISO situations, taking it one-on-one and not being able to finish and turning it over. Either not being able to finish at the rim or turning it over. And I think that's what someone's going to do when you cannot fully create the offensive advantage that you need to do, and you try to do a little bit too much. And you saw Andrew Wiggins take his cookies as he's driving, and they were being really physical with him at the rim, knowing that you can force the miss pretty easily. So, veterans not really stepping up in those situations, but that's, to me, like 53 points. There's a little bit of tip your cap, but there's also a little bit of protect the basketball. And these rookies are going to have to learn quick. Look, I mean, it's unfair, but like that's the situation they're in. They're going to have to learn quick to not cough up this basketball, value possessions, because not only does it cause advantages for the opposing transition offense, but it just completely takes your offense out of rhythm. They were actually, to me, they were actually fortunate not to be down 30. And a lot of that was just on shot making. Tre Mann was particularly good in the first quarter, 4 of 6, 13 points in that first quarter. Like his shot making and then being able to get to the line twice and make all 4 of his free throws. I mean, that was critical to just keeping them even within shouting distance, to even give yourself an opportunity to get back in that second quarter. You have to hand it to Tre Mann there, even though he failed to really deliver in the second half. Also, man, I think if Miles Bridges is going to like be point person on your offense, you got to make sure you got Musa out there, because Musa was able to just be a force on the offensive rebounds and clean up a lot of those close misses by Miles Bridges. And Tidjane James, I thought another couple of takes that I look at and say, man, that looked like a fringe all-star take to the rim. Strong, fast. He does have that burst to get by a defender. I was watching the game with a friend of mine who played a little college ball and knows a lot about playing basketball, and said, Sion, Lou Dort, looking like Lou out there. I would take, I know a lot of you would take a Lou Dort on this team. I've been, I think Kon has been the best rookie, but I just think in terms of like where I thought this player would be and where they actually are, Sion way higher. The differential is higher with Sion. Kalk too, but like even more than Kalkbrenner. I think Sion even has a little bit more room to go than Kalkbrenner. So exciting. I mean, that's the thing, you look at these injury reports, and I had a lot of fun on X, posting my reaction to some of the injury reports, and it can get a little disappointing to look at those, but at the same time, there's a lot to be excited about. And all we have is time, I guess. We're sickos. There's no choice. We're here. We were born into this. We didn't choose this. So, all we have to do is just wait and hope that these rookies are made of stone instead of glass, and can continue to put up numbers and get this experience, because if they are going to have to restart or rebuild, then better to do it with some of these rookies that look like they're ready for the moment, older rookies. Like, you're not going to have to spend so much time in development with these guys. Better to do it with them. I think if you're looking for evidence that the Hornets should invest at the trade deadline and like really go for it, I haven't seen that evidence so far for all the stuff we talked about in the first segment. But we'll talk about it more next week. Walker and I, we've got some programming notes. We've got some schedule oddities next week. So you're going to see a lot of me solo. You're going to see a lot of Walker solo. You'll see us get together once or twice next week. But we will be here every day for you, covering the team that we love, that in some respects we're forced to love because we have a disease, and that disease is Charlotte Hornets basketball. All right, and the treatment, there's only one treatment, and that's watching the show and getting together and going and joining the Sicko Brigade and checking my stuff out on every Hornets box score, because, and I mean that sincerely, like, community is the way that we do this, talking to each other, having fun, enjoying these amazing rookie performances. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Hornets. Thanks so much to you for listening every single day. We're the #1 sports podcast network. How amazing is that, to be a part of that? And that's been because of you, because you watch every single day. We love you. We love the everydayers out there. All right. For Walker, I'm Doug saying go Hornets, go America. Let's swarm Charlotte. Have a great rest of your weekend.